The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Good day. Welcome to our program, Our View on Public Safety. Today, I am Richard Aguiar, the Director of Emergency Management and the Chief of Special Services. Today, my guests are Inspector Jeff Medeiros and Clayton Walker. They're fire inspectors. They're very knowledgeable in what they do. So let's start off. People always talk about gas grills, and I see them all over the place, as you guys can relate. Gas grills on decks, right? So that's really not a good idea, right?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, if you want to get technical, if you look at the NFPA code, which regulates LPG or the bottled gas, it says it must be on ground level and X number of feet away from property. The biggest problem you run into when you look at the decks, especially ones that are elevated, in the event of a fire, I don't know if anybody's ever seen what happens when one of those bottles of gas catch fire. They actually become like a flamethrower when the pressure relief valve blows off and you're not getting next to it. That being said, now where is that fire? In a lot of cases, it's very close proximity to your house. So you can have an exterior fire, which then becomes an interior fire because that fire is hitting the outside of the house and quickly burns through.
It seems like we've been having a lot of propane tanks and homeless encampments that catch fire and blow up and everything else. What does that cause from? They just abuse, not paying attention to what they're doing? Or?
Part of it, the one fire that I ran into with LPG was the case that people were burning. They had a grill and they were using the LPG, and what they did was, rather than years ago, remember the lava rock down at the base? What they did was they put wood. So you had the gas fuel going with solid fuel, and what ended up happening was the tank became so hot that the pressure relief valve did what it should have.
It blew?
It blew, and when it did, it ignited. So you ended up with that flamethrower effect because the gas was pressurized, and now you had this flamethrower going off. So if the tank or the cylinder heats up, it can expand, the gas inside can expand, which would then cause the pressure relief valve to go off and could cause a fire. Or then again, they could be using appliances or misusing appliances that could cause a fire.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes when you hear a fire call, it's flames on a porch, but it's actually a gas grill on a deck, and that's not good.
We've seen them everywhere. They've been on decks. They've been inside garages.
Yeah.
I went to a fire that the guy put it like 6 inches away from his aluminum siding, and of course his whole house caught on fire because the flames were leaping under the grill, and it burned a hole in the aluminum siding. And as soon as that happens, and unfortunately he waited, and instead of calling 911 right away, he actually tried to use his garden hose and shoot up the hole. And that's just multiplying, that's doubling in size every 30 seconds.
Yeah.
By the time I got there at the center station, half his house was on fire.
Oh, yeah.
And you definitely don't want it close to your house. You definitely don't want it on a deck, inside a garage where it can't be ventilated. The rule of thumb is 7 to 10 feet away from a structure.
Right. But who follows that?
They should.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's a hard lesson to learn.
It is.
They don't follow it.
Right. The next thing, let's talk about air conditioners and windows. I think a lot of controversy from Gabriel House fire. Lessons will be learned from that, as we all know. But people just they like to put air conditioners in a way of aggression. And speak on that a little bit.
So it's the same rule of thumb with that. So we go to we have to do every house inspection for house sales. Plus we get complaints. I can't tell you how many times we see an air conditioner on a fire escape window, and we have to tell them that it moves out. right? But we might drive by 3 days later and see that same air conditioner in there again. There's just so many, and we have limited resources.
Yeah.
We can't be chasing that the entire time. But we do tell them, we make them take it out in order to get their house sale cert. Or in a complaint situation, we tell them they must take it out. But it's the same thinking, just like the grill we were just talking about. Unless something happens, the people are like, oh, well, you know, the air conditioner's here. But boy, that would be, again, a hard lesson to learn if there was a real fire and it's blocking their main means of egress and they have to get to the fire escape. Now there's no way they're going to take the fire extinguisher out. It's smoky conditions. But people don't think that way.
Right.
We're trying to teach them proactively. And
Yeah.
a lot of times it's reactive thinking.
So if you just mentioned something, if you go by homes all the time, the same air conditioner in the window, and you warn them, and then you go by again, oh dear Lord, you'll warn them. Is there a fine that can be applied to these homeowners? Listen, this is it, you're going to be fined. Is there a state statute that you can fine these people?
There is. We have a ticketing program in the state of Massachusetts where we can issue monetary fines to people. It's not a program that we have used that often in the past. A lot of times what we've used in the past is the court process, the housing court. And because ultimately, you know, we're not looking to really generate funds on this. We're looking for compliance. And part of that goes with education. We try to educate people as to the reason why they want to take the correct answer, or action, I should say. And you know, part of it is I understand where a lot of times the air conditioners, where they locate them, are in a bedroom. But rather than getting the window air conditioner, maybe it'd make more sense to get one of those air conditioners, you know, the type that are on rollers that don't occupy the space of a window, so it could cool the room and still stay safe at the same time. Because just like you've seen the night of Gabriel House and many other fires that we've had, when you're caught inside of a room and you're being subjected to that kind of smoke, you don't have the time to take out an air conditioner at that point. Right. So don't block your means of egress. Always important to have two ways out. In the event if one of those ways are blocked, you have the secondary egress to get out and stay safe.
Yeah, and you know, that's our next thing we're going to go over. I've seen, and I know you guys have, they have the front way to get into the first, second, third floor apartments. Some people just pile all kind of junk on their level to get down, and it's just like a storage room.
Yep.
And way of egress, they'll never get out of there. And you're topping it with the air conditioners with no way of egress. There's only one way of egress, like you just mentioned. The other big thing, as you know, apartments and basements, there's only one way up the stairs. They're down a two-way egress. And people just, they take things for granted. That's never going to happen. Wow.
Right.
Look what happened, you know, a few months back. You can't take things for granted. But the other thing, now, when you guys go to the schools and educate the kids, do you speak to this stuff as well?
Yeah, we definitely mention that.
Yeah.
Again, the leverage we have is when we do go to like house sales. That absolutely has to be cleaned up before we give them a cert for a house. So right in the beginning, we have that leverage. Unfortunately, after the house gets sold, or let's say the 6-family gets sold, or the 3-family, people stop piling stuff up again in those hallways. And unless somebody complains about it, or another house sale, there's many times we don't even know, because we're not in there to see that. I was in a fire one time, and we were climbing up to the 3rd floor, and I couldn't see, and the person must have stored all their cans and bottles at the back stairwell. So I'm climbing up, and I hit, and I knock, I don't know how many bottles and cans on the people in back, all the firefighters in back of me, and they were like, "What are you doing?" I can't see, but that was stopping me from getting in to that apartment, you know? I mean, you're talking cases and cases and cases of empty cans and bottles of soda.
Yeah, people just don't think.
Right.
until something should happen.
Right, and that I think is the big part of it. I mean, the public would be well served when they're thinking about when they're storing things in hallways and stuff like that. Just take a second and put yourself in a position of 2 o'clock in the morning, just waking up, full of smoke. Because if you think to that extent, you're probably never going to block your way out. Because I'll be honest with you, I mean, years ago, before it was make sure you got your mask on before you go in.
Yeah.
I remember going in with somebody. It didn't look like it was much of a fire. We ran in, and within probably 3 to 5 seconds, we were almost jumping out of the building because even with that light smoke that you could see, it's what's burning. The plastics are burning. That smoke is very acidic. 1 or 2 breaths of that, the back of your throat's burning. So you want to get away from that fire as quick as possible. So please don't block the egresses.
When it comes to teaching, Chief, we also we piggyback that with two ways out, and we also always mention having a meeting place outside where the family can get together, make sure, because you've got people leaving the back, side entrances, front entrances, and if they don't know who's out, the tendency might be to run back in, and for children or other purposes, and that could be a disaster.
Well, that's when we have a fire, and I've always told the police officers, because we do the displaced family report, right? Make sure everyone's in one area so we can account for them.
Right.
Just don't let anybody leave, because if somebody leaves, then yeah, he was here, but I saw him, and he's still in it. That's really taboo.
Right.
Yep.
I think that one of the biggest things that we face in you guys, fire prevention and the fire department, is lithium batteries. Cell phones, laptops, power tools, toys, all kind of toys today has lithium batteries. And so that's a big problem now, isn't it, we're facing?
A huge problem. It's definitely one of the reasons for causes of fires. I mean, we had a larger fire in this city, I think, about 2 years ago now. The biggest problem with the lithium batteries is once they get going, they cause this runaway reaction, especially if you have other batteries nearby. So a couple things, as far as people charging their phones at night, make sure if you're charging your phone, don't place it under your pillow, because when you're charging lithium batteries, there is that heat reaction, and you don't want that heat building up, because that can cause a lithium battery fire. You also always want to make sure you have it on a hard surface as opposed to putting it on top of your pillow for the same reasons, so that you get that heat dissipation.
How would you put your cell phone on your pillow, on top of your pillow?
Oh, I've seen, you have kids, right? Or are yours a little bit
No,
older?
they're all in their 40s.
Okay, all right. Well, the younger kids, all of a sudden they're talking on their phone. When they're in bed, next thing you know, they're about to go to bed, stick it under your pillow, lay down, and it happens. I mean, that heat can't dissipate, and next thing you know, it ignites, and lithium, as you've seen, I'm sure, many of the fires, especially the car fires,
Today.
once they get going, they're very, very difficult to put out.
Yeah, now there's you have to put a blanket over the cars or stuff such as that.
Yep.
Vape cigarettes, that could be a problem too, right? In
Yes.
some instances, if people abuse how they charge those.
Yeah, we've actually had, I remember a few years ago when some of our other workers we worked with, we had a fire one time with one of them in a backpack at a school. And after they talked to the individual was trying to make modifications to it to get more power out of it. And by doing so, caused the problem and caused a fire with it, because those devices get hot as well when they're used. Basically, it's a vaporizer. So you have the heating element, and it heats up, and if it malfunctions, again, can cause a fire as well. So yeah.
Yep. If there's any smelling weird or gets hot or making popping noises, call the fire department.
Yeah.
Right away.
A lot of I see a lot of those battery charged bicycles around today too.
Yeah.
People drive them all over the place.
Yeah.
Now, that could be a problem if you bring those things into your apartment and charge them in the apartment, right?
It's the same thing.
Same thing, right?
Yep.
People
same
just
exact thing.
Yep.
Another thing, I brought for today, for the audience. Don't throw those batteries in the trash or recycling. There's a specialty. You want to call, it's an email, it's CALL, call2recycle.org. That's who to contact if you want to throw away lithium-ion batteries. So it's CALL2, the number 2, recycle.org.
Oh, shit. Space heaters is a big problem in the wintertime because the space heaters kick in. People have a bad habit of putting clothing on top of space heaters or pile junk around them as a back storage area. Well, we'll put the stuff behind it, we can't see it.
Or food.
Or food.
To heat it up.
Yeah.
So we've seen all of the
Everything.
above, and I'm sure, I know Clayton and I, and I'm sure Chief yourself, we've all been to those fires as well, where all of a sudden you have somebody, they have a space heater, they're not paying attention, maybe they have some magazines close by, and the thing about the space heaters, you have the radiant heat, which, yeah, it's nice and warm, but now if you have articles that are combustible, that are, in close proximity, next thing you know, maybe not hour 1, maybe not hour 2, but hour 3, those articles have become so hot that they reach their ignition temperature, and now next thing you know, we have a fire.
And what happens usually is the one I went to, the guy put his shirt on the space heater, and he got distracted, so he's out cooking, and the shirt caught fire because he's laying it right over the space heater. Now these are grown adults, but you forget, you get distracted, and all of a sudden you have a fire.
They had the South End, I forget what it was. The woman had the old wooden clothing racks?
Yes.
She had that. She had something on top of the space heater, and she had the clothing rack over the space heater with clothes hanging over it, like underwear and stuff.
Yep.
And that ignited, and then it tipped over, caught the curtains on fire, and it was a disaster. That should not have happened. But people sometimes, once again, they don't, like you just mentioned, they don't think that's going to cause a fire. They they're just radiant heat. But you'd be surprised. I mean, that stuff gets pretty hot, particularly if you have nylon and stuff. That's going to just heat it up.
That's right away. Matter of fact, one of the girls from the SAFE program that Clayton runs now, she ended up winning the Young Heroes Award. They had a gas space heater in their apartment, and same thing. Family of 3, they're busy, mom put the basket of clothes down, next thing you know, everybody went to bed, and sure enough, it was too close, heated up. The whole apartment caught fire, but this girl took the right action, saved her brother and sister and herself. Yep. And so this time of year, you got to be careful. The other thing is you want to make sure that you have your heating system serviced. You're turning on the heat, it's been idle all summer, make sure it's been serviced once a year.
That's actually not only the furnaces and oil burners, but chimneys, fireplaces, make sure they're cleaned.
Oh yeah, I just had mine clean, my fireplace.
Right.
Yeah, it's a good proactive thing to do because we every year we go to fires.
Yeah, well, I remember back in the day, they used to put the sandbags down the chimneys when they used to have a fire in them to try to suppress it along the sides, all the creosote and stuff. So smoke detectors and CO detectors, I think people get those confused. And they're not the same.
Not the same.
CO detector is something different, smoke detector is something different. And can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so smoke detectors, you can see and smell smoke, right? With CO detectors, you cannot see or smell carbon monoxide. So we actually call that, scary enough, the silent killer. So you should have both in your house. One at each level. CO detectors need to be 10 feet from bedrooms, sleeping rooms. When those go off, you should get outside and call 911. Again, you can usually see smoke and smell smoke, but you can't see or smell CO detectors. So when we go into house sales, they have to be totally correct in order to make that house sale. So one on each level, 10 feet from the bedroom should be a CO detector. If you have a combo unit, now they can come together, smoke and CO in one unit, but it must have voice. And the smoke detectors have to be photoelectric. They still sell ionization because we live so close to Rhode Island. So they're not going to stop selling it at Home Depot because Rhode Island can use ionization. But in Massachusetts, they have to be photoelectric. Yep. And they do save lives,
Oh,
definitely.
yeah, they certainly do.
And one of the other differences between the two is smoke detectors are good for 10 years, carbon monoxide detectors are good for 7 years. And a lot of people, well, how do you know? If you look at the back of your detector, there's a date on it. That's the manufacturer's date. So go 7 years on a carbon monoxide detector forward. So if it was made in 2000 and on a smoke detector, if it says 2014, it's elapsed 10 years, it's time to replace it. And on a carbon monoxide detector, if it was 2018, time to replace it as well.
We have seen some in-house sales, and this is God's honest truth, that are from the 70s.
Wow, they still work?
70s. Well, we don't allow them. They have to change them out.
Right.
Right.
But they still have them up. And
Wow.
depending on that thing to work,
Right.
50 years later.
Right. What happens is each year beyond, it loses its sensitivity. And as it gets older, it just like anything, it tends to degrade. So nowadays, at least with both of these devices, they have built into it where once it hits the end of its life cycle, it goes into a beeping mode. So it's going to remind you every minute with a beep that it's time to change the device.
So now we're getting into Christmas.
Yes, we are.
People love to run extension cords to plug 100 things in at once. so let's talk about the do's and the don'ts regarding that.
Yeah, they create Christmas trees right at the outlet by adding on.
Yeah.
And when you're doing all of those add-ons, you're creating more heat at that particular location. All electrical is rated for a certain amount to pass through. When you're doing that, you're overloading the circuit and creating excessive heat, which then can create a fire as well.
We'd be remiss. I mean, you jumped right to Christmas. Our #1 fire day around the nation is coming up, and it's Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
And because of cooking and cooking mishaps. So
Yeah.
please be careful when
Yeah.
you're cooking around Thanksgiving.
And it's funny you mentioned that because way back in the day, before they had smoke detectors, most of the house fires were kitchen fires because a pan caught fire and people wasn't paying attention. Next thing you know, boom. Now they catch it right away when the smoke detector goes off.
Right.
So that's a good thing.
Right,
Candles. Let's talk about candles for Christmas. Another one, right?
right.
Remember
Oh,
back
yeah.
in the day, people just put candles on Christmas trees,
I have to
right?
tell my incident
Yeah,
again.
Clayton has a
friend-
personal story with
Yeah,
this.
so my friend who worked at St. Vincent's for years and years, she said I could tell the story. So she had a candle burning in her basement, and her husband, and the 2 boys went up for lunch. She left the candle burning.
Yeah.
Now their dog, bigger dog, somehow, don't know how, tail, nose, whatever, knocked it over and knocked over the candle right into a hamper of clothes.
Oh.
They didn't know. They were upstairs eating lunch. And it burned and burned, and then it's spreading. Then the detectors go off. But by that point, her basement is now on fire. So we come. I wasn't working that day, but we come. We put it out. She told me the total cost, $22,000. Because when she went upstairs with her husband and the 2 boys, she didn't take the time to go and blow out the candle. That's all it takes. When you leave, the rule of thumb, when you leave the room, blow out the candle. And that's all it would have taken.
And there's been a lot of fires started with candles and draperies in the windows, and they
Yep.
catch the draperies on fire, and
Yep.
all kind of crazy things.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The other thing, and I know Clayton loves cats. There's been many incidents.
play with- yeah.
Yeah, many
cats.
incidents with cats because of the flickering of the flame. They won't go up to it
go
to
with the
where they
paw,
get
right?
burned,
Yes.
and then they'll push it over. Accidentally, obviously. So if you have animals, be careful. Same thing, like you said, especially nothing. No candles near anything that can burn. And if you do use a candle, especially in the better weather, is when you run into it with the drapes and the curtains, because somebody will light a candle. Next thing you know, the wind will
is
catch
open.
the drape or the curtain and blow it into the path of the flame. So
So let's go over the another item. disregarded cigarettes. I mean, that's another big problem, that a lot of fires are caused by cigarettes. People throw them off the porch, or they get stuck in the seams of the porch. They don't pay attention. That's another big problem, right? And how do you resolve those things? You can't resolve it.
Education. You just got to hope that when you go and educate people that they do not just willy-nilly throw cigarettes out of houses, buildings, whatever, to catch things on fire, because it will catch. And we've gone to plenty of fires caused by that.
Right, and same thing with people, you know, they'll be sitting down, they'll be tired, end of the night, sitting down on their couch smoking, they'll fall asleep. Cigarette falls into the couch, next thing you know, we have a fire. So that's one of the things we talk in a lot of different public housing, Fall River Housing Authority properties recently, is they don't allow smoking in the apartments. If somebody wants to smoke, go outside. And it's actually a really good practice, because we ended up having a fire in the city at one point where, you know, the person was there, they were tired, they fell asleep, and unfortunately they died in the fire.
And how about people smoking in bed with an ashtray and smoking, watching TV or something?
True.
I mean, why would you even do that?
Right. And that's
Right.
not the way to go.
Right.
No, it
You do
certainly
not
isn't.
want to burn to death.
No, and the other thing is, people who are on oxygen and they smoke, kapoof.
Right.
Right? That's another situation that happened, right?
Right.
And
Another really bad scenario, because I mean, especially, you know, fire now, what, every 30 to 45 seconds doubles. But if you place that same scenario in an oxygen-enriched environment, it's going to burn even quicker than that with more intensity. So, you know, if you do smoke, go outside and smoke.
one other thing before we leave. So we're getting into the fall, as we all know. People like to open fire pits outside, go to the shore, to Stop and Shop, buy a bag of wood and just throw in their little fireplace. And I think that's a very fine line sometimes about open fire pits in the backyard or burning, you know.
It's an extremely fine line. It's actually regulated through Mass DEP, not the fire departments, but we respond to the nuisance fires. And I get it, you know, the aesthetics of a fire, it's beautiful, but always remember, if you're gonna do that, make sure it's away from the house. And when we respond is when it's considered a nuisance fire. If that smoke is infiltrating into somebody else's property, especially we run into this more so in the summer, people have their windows open, smoke's going over to the other area, becomes and creates a nuisance. But the regulation in the city of Fall River is there is no open burning.
Well, thank you guys. It was very interesting. Thank you all for watching our view on public safety. See you next time. Thank you.